everyone. Welcome to my show, Career Startup Podcast, a podcast to spotlight Asian leaders. Today, I have with me a very special and interesting guest, Kuppalakshmi Krishnamurthy from Chennai, India. Hi, Kuppu.
Hello, hi Priyanka.
So
Good morning.
let me give you a brief background of who Kuppu is. Uh, Kuppalakshmi is fondly known as Kuppu, as I've rightly pointed out. She heads Zoho for Startups, which is a program that's globally focused. She has been part of Zoho's growth story for about a decade, and she bridges the gap between businesses and technology, which has been the core area of her work. She focuses on strategic alliances between Zoho and various startup bodies, such as the state governments, incubators, accelerators, and other stakeholders. She's a mentor to various startups and guides them on pitching, design thinking, and on using EQ while hiring new talents and setting up the vision and culture of the startup. Kuppu is a sought-after keynote speaker on topics like future skills, emotional intelligence, and human elements of technology. She is also an ambivert who loves to cook, sing, dance, and do a lot of fun things in her life. She also has an 8-year-old. So let's ask more about how Kuppu does it all successfully with such grace and composure. Hi, Kuppu. So excited to have you on Career Startup.
Hi Priyanka, equally excited. I look forward to this conversation. Thank you for having me on this podcast.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure, Kuppu. Kuppu, I've been talking a lot about Zoho to begin with. Tell us a little bit about what Zoho is and your role as a product evangelist at Zoho.
Right. Zoho is basically a software company. We create and sell software to people across the world. Zoho has been around for say 23, 24 years now. From the time the internet wave happened and how several of the businesses started using apps to run their businesses. So somewhere from 2006, we rode this wave of the cloud and cloud applications. And I joined Zoho somewhere in 2010, early 2010, and it's been a little over 10 years, but it feels like a lifetime. Zoho has not been my first job, but such is the intense, the learning, and the paths that I have traveled in all these 10 years. And today I'm a product evangelist, but I did not join Zoho as one. I joined as a soft skills and communications trainer way back when we were, say, 1,500 to 2,000 people at that time. And the company was looking to hire a trainer that could train people on body language, understand cross culture, because we were selling to people across the globe. So what to say and how to say, be sensitive of the news, sometimes understand that technology, the words and the jargons is not going to directly relate to the people who are going to be on the other side, end users. So when I walked into Zoho, one of these days, I think I was working on the presentation when the CEO just walked by, and you realize someone is looking at your computer and you're wondering who this person is. And then he asks me what I was doing and all of that. And just as say a funny moment, if you look back, he just threw me a very casual challenge saying, oh, it's so easy to sit and be a trainer and tell people on how to talk. How nice it'll be if you be our end user, being from a non-tech background, pick any of our product and try explaining it to the end user yourself. So started my journey after spending 3-4 years in Zoho as a content specialist, as a trainer, slowly putting one area of interest into a product and trying to learn it from the user perspective. So before I know, so many years have passed by, many moments of challenge, opportunities, and personal growth. So that is me. And as an evangelist, it is like what the Spider-Man famous quote goes, with great power comes great responsibility. So when you're representing an organization, you sort of become the face, and people think of you when something goes wrong. They find you on LinkedIn, they find you on Twitter, and then they want to connect via you back to your organization. So it's very rewarding. At the same time, it's a lot of responsibility that you take on to learn things, and you represent your organization by adding little of your own personal style to it. I define evangelism like that.
That's pretty interesting. And you've had your own growth curve at Zoho. So I'm so glad you've been willing to share your experience. Tell us, how does it feel working at Zoho over the last decade? What has changed?
What has changed? Okay. Every day I feel a lot of things, and sometimes I think I overthink things. So it's a duet, I call it, between what you think and what you feel. And we women are very good at bringing a balance where you have to listen to your emotions, because therein lies the heart of intuitiveness, your foresight, your 360-degree decision making. The other side, there is your intellectual capacity, where you're always curious. You learn from I learn from my daughter. You learn from people around you to keep your childlike curiosity alive. Always going on and asking, "What is this? How do I understand that feature?" And be very comfortable in asking those silly questions, because those are your moments of learning. Initially, I was a little hesitant to ask those questions, because everybody around you is tech savvy, they are writing content for marketing. But then you realize you have to be comfortable in your own space, and ask people for help if you're stuck. So over a period of time, I think I changed these really rigid things that we acquire as adults, and then have fun in this process. There's this tiny insecurity that you eventually change into vulnerability, and then put in your strength, which is otherwise looked upon as a weakness. What has changed in me is this quality, where, what do you say, the uncertainty becomes an important part of you. The uncertainty of tomorrow, how tech keeps changing. It's never enough what you know. So somehow this insignificant part of you gives you comfort over a period of time. So I've understood in every way that change is the only constant. Even as we speak, the pandemic has brought about so much uncertainty that we all are waiting for some clarity of how tomorrow will look like. So I see myself as an eternal learner.
That's very true, Kupu. And uncertainty seems to be everywhere. And it's hard as leaders, how do you predict the future? And how do you take your teams with you, with some knowledge of what the future is going to look like? Now, as you touched base on vulnerability, which is a very key aspect of leadership, because you always need to have that childlike curiosity, which you rightly pointed out, but still have that foresight. Now, if I ask you, what will be the top 3 skills that you would rate as very important in your career, what would those be?
Top 3 skills in my career, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
What will those be? Good question. So if you think of skills, I think it's a lot to do with interpersonal, how you would work with people of different personalities, experience. That is one. Number 2, I think I always go back to basic communication skills. Right from how do you ask questions, because it's not equal to questioning someone, right? It's about asking the question in the right way, where you keep your mind open for answers. You don't really craft a question in a way where you expect the answer, or you're waiting for the person to give you the answer that you want. So one is all these interpersonal skills. 2 is very basic communication skills, to understand time management, to understand, like I said, how to ask questions. How would you approach storytelling? Because when you talk about tech and the role that I took on, it wasn't very easy to do. Okay, from being a trainer, suddenly you're standing in the stage representing Zoho in annual user conferences and workshops. It wasn't very easy at all. But then I think I was comfortable with those challenges. No 2 days looked the same, and somehow I liked it that way. To wake up and see what the day has in store for me, to look back at those moments of challenges, because when you look back, they transform, they metamorphose into moments of opportunities. At that moment, they are very challenging. You break into a sweat. you're standing in a room full of audience, you know they know better than you. But then to show yourself to people, I don't know if you can call these as skills. Generally, all of these life skills, I think, is very, very important. And early in life, I involuntarily invited some failures into my life. So those played a very important role in acquiring these skills and understanding that I still have to improve. There's always scope of improvement.
I agree. And learning is a process for each one of us, be it personally and professionally. And the biggest thing is, what lessons can you acquire and make yourself as a better person, a stronger person as you go forward? And I really love the word metamorphosis that you mentioned about. It's like, a butterfly's transformation, and everybody has something unique to share to the world. And that explains when you're on stage sharing the story of Zoho in the most easy to understand way without the technical jargon. I think that's very key. Now, you spoke about being the head of communications and soft skills at Zoho and working with different personalities, which is a little challenging, getting everybody on the same page. What is one lesson that you've learned in that experience at Zoho when you look back?
Wow. Let me collect my thoughts here. So when I look back, there are many moments of learning, right? I think one that will always stand out is understanding perspectives. I think I started looking at what you call the emotional quotient or emotional intelligence side of things, because you have to be very self-aware. And only when you're self-aware, you become socially aware, right? You like say, I cannot approach people as an established trainer. They're not going to learn anything from me, because people who are going to get trained are adults, easily more than 25 years old. By then how rigid we become, especially when I'm talking about 10 years back, right? I was younger, and then when you stand in front of experienced tech people, you are actually pitching to them as to why it is important to say things that as to how you present. You can cook the world's most famous tastiest biryani, but the way you plate it, the way you decorate it, the time that you effort that you put into give it in a very presentable way, sometimes that also matters. So looking back, I think I learned perspective. I learned to be more self-aware in order to be more socially aware, because relationship management was very, very important. You don't have to get people on the same page all the time, but you have doors open, you leave doors open where, say, after they leave my training or they leave a meeting after discussion, they should find me trustworthy. They should find me intellectually approachable, where we exchange points. We are both open to concluding at a midpoint. So many a times it's not about right or wrong. It's about doing what is important for Zoho's big picture. So if I have to make one thing into two things, I would make it as perspective and a lot of emotional intelligence. Yeah.
And I'm so glad as a speaker you're talking more about emotional intelligence, because I think as women we have a very different level of intuition when it comes to reading people's mind. I'm glad you agree on that part of it. So tell us a little bit about mentorship in your career, because you're here today with a lot of your own inspiration and willpower, but I'm quite sure there must have been people in several aspects of your life who have helped you propel into what you are today.
See, in all these years of narrative, it's really kind that people think of me as a mentor, or like you say, the words that we use, how you propel yourself, like all the world's a stage and you're standing there. I really see all of us as different places in a huge set of concentric circles, okay? Each of these concentric circles can mean a lot, different topics or skills that you give. it can be tech, it can be running a podcast. Isn't very easy, right? You have to put so many factors together, your networking skills, when you launch off, what happens to your credibility and all of that. So imagine each of these as these concentric circles, okay? I always see each of our human beings as, different people standing in different circles, inviting each other to come hold hands and exchange knowledge, where you don't have to pull yourself up or take the effort, to pull someone from a lower level to where you are. Understanding this perspective has helped me be more open to exchange of knowledge, in a way where if I'm a mentor, I'm open to learning 10 things from whoever accepts me as a mentor. And this is something that you cannot self-proclaim. I cannot arrive with saying, hello, Kupu is a mentor, right? There are several stages in life that you cross and you arrive, and every mentor comes with an expiry date when he or she doesn't learn. So how do you change your mindset? How inclusive you are in your thought process, how you are able to guide someone without changing them into you. My intention shouldn't be making 10 copies of Kupu. What will happen to the world? You need all kinds of people and get them to be the best version of themselves. So I think I've learned a lot from the mentors I have had in my life. It's a blessing. Sometimes I've worked to be deserving of them. I've gone and bugged these people, extensively networked, waited till they look at you and can I ask a question, and then follow through them over years. So I think some of it I have picked from them, a nice copycat, and then I have added my style, because looking back only you realize how important authenticity is. So it's a very rewarding place and a very responsible place to be in, to be a mentor, where you learn the dignity in which you give is always equal to the dignity in which you receive. There's always a two-way street, and I'm very, very happy to be as a mentor for several startups, because the learning is so immense. It's just so immense. Yeah.
That's amazing to hear, Kupu. And it's always a two-way street, as you mentioned, being a mentor yourself, but being a mentee as well. You understand the challenges of having approached someone, having got somebody's attention. And now when somebody's trying to get your attention, how kind and gracious you could be to give them your time.
You said it so right. You have been in that place once. What are you going to give back? Very nicely put. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. And I've had several mentors myself or in my life. And, it's always interesting. They don't have to be in tech. These are people who come from different fields, but have nuggets of wisdom that you can imbibe. And I've really enjoyed being a mentor myself, especially to high school and middle school girls in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, because I feel giving back and being a role model for a lot of, kids who are trying to understand what the future path could look like, what are some career choices that you can do. So thank you for sharing that. I know you've had several ups in your professional life, but if I could ask, was there ever a low moment in your career which really scared you? What would that look like?
Okay. There's several of them, okay? In the sense where some of the days you wake up, you want to go back into your blanket saying, okay, I'm not going to peek into this day. Oh, I have to wake up today and then take on this day, at least to, get by. There are several days, especially during this pandemic, no 2 days are same. Things are not in your control. Work and workplace have taken several definitions during this time. People are trying to go remote, like they don't have a choice. India was always talking about future work, but now overnight we had to take that decision. See if you can use technology and all of that. Let me not digress too far away from what I was going to answer, but yeah, there are several days that are really scary, but that is also means that I'm human, I've not, just by becoming a mentor, I've not reached a point where there's a halo around my head. I'm zen and I've reached a place of, total self-secure position. These are the times when you seek your mentor, go find that dormant conversation and say, okay, what do? I feel stuck. So if I have to give you a specific example, um, I think with startups, um, especially when you are talking about technology and startups, these days it's very, very, very challenging because many of them don't want to talk to me.
Why
They
is
want to
that?
talk to my CEO, okay?
Mhm.
Because somehow they think being in that position, because they are founders, co-founders, they think I am someone who wouldn't understand what it takes to run a startup during this time, some of which is very, very reasonable. But imagine my CEO, Zoho's CEO, with 8,000 employees to manage, with a foresight that he has to distribute to everyone. How is the possibility of him being available to have conversations with each of them, even if that is humanly possible? So during this time, I think I've gone back to the qualities, or what do you say, credentials that made me as a trainer, and go back to refreshing those lessons on empathy, and work on making them understand it's not easy at all. Every day I'm scared when I look into my email inbox what escalation is going to happen. I'm going to sit and think on what can I say where I can convince this person that I am the right person he's talking to,
Mhm.
right? So there are times like this that are very challenging. There are times when I'm emotionally full because maybe I'm thinking of incidents from my past. Maybe I'm connecting the dots unnecessarily. I'm fretting over things that are not in my control. So those are the days that are very, very scary. And during the pandemic, I see more of such days. So you wake up and you say, you create a mental drawer, and the morning you wake up and open the drawer where daughter's online class, do this, and shut that drawer. And then open another drawer, okay, what is my to-do list? And then take care of that and push it back. So to not think of everything at the same time, and I have learned this only after hurting myself enough, pulling my hair and going crazy. And then you sit down with a cup of tea and think, okay, what am I doing? I'm not going to go anywhere. This is like a treadmill. So let me walk. If I have to scale the mountain, let me be mentally prepared, practice every day, and take one step at a time. And I'm not going to scale the summit overnight. This conversation happens with myself very, very frequently. Did I answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. And I was about to say thank you for being so graceful in terms of sharing your vulnerability, because I wasn't expecting an answer of at this level. So thank you, because it makes us feel that we are human and we have our own set of emotions. And I really like the idea of compartmentalizing what you have to deal with life, and especially we are wired in a different way, as the psychology of men and women. I don't want to make it more about women, but in general, we connect the dots more than the situation demands sometimes. Uh, and I like the way of just practicing that mindfulness of thinking of the situation as it is, and then taking a break and being more self-aware, which are some of the key skill sets that you mentioned earlier on. So, but that's a very vulnerable moment that you shared. So thank you. Our listeners are very grateful for that. Uh, so as part of your career, I know you work with a lot of startups. What's the scale of these startups that you work with? Tell us a little bit more about that experience at Zoho.
Okay, so of all these 10 plus years that I have worked, 2017 is when we began intensely working with the startups. Also because Zoho was growing. When I joined, like I said, we were 1,500 people and there were a handful of apps. Today we have grown into a full-fledged suite of apps giving end-to-end solutions for any kind of businesses at any stage of growth. Be it you're a solopreneur or you fall under the category of MSMEs, your enterprise, or your really small scale businesses that work on sustainable models, or be it startups. We have solutions to run your business, be it customer relationship management, or how do you do your sales and marketing? How do you take care of communicating and collaborating with your teammates and with your customers and clients? So when you have a solution that has grown over the years from handful of 3-4 apps to 45 plus apps today, we've reached a milestone of 50 million users from across the world. It is very important to take a step back and look at the journey once, okay, in all these 10 years. So 2017 was also the year when we launched Zoho One as one bundle of all the apps from Zoho, right? So this is like in a restaurant, you enter and you're given a choice whether you pick menu from a la carte, or there is always a starter, a soup and a main course and a dessert combo, or you have the entire buffet available for you. As an end user, if you are someone who has walked into restaurants, who has done fine dining, you have an idea of how do you go about your selection of apps, how hungry you are and all of that. But if you are someone who's been comfortable only in your cuisine for some reason, this is an analogy I draw because it relates very easily to people. And when you do this, in 2017, India also arrived at a stage where Invest India was formed under the government, and there was an initiative called Startup India that was launched. Around the same time, we launched Zoho One, and it was very moment, what do you say, a moment of importance for us because that was the first ever collaboration we made, and it gave a sort of wonderful ripple effect across the country. And Zoho got its visibility in India because till then we were looking at revenue and businesses in dollars and pounds, and now you are a made in India company that's made for the world, and you better focus on what's happening with India. So 2016-17 saw the startups ecosystem that was stabilizing. Not every small businesses were calling themselves as startups because everyone was calling themselves VCs, and investing of money was happening everywhere. Now, when the stabilization happens, it gives you like suddenly the cloud is all gone, the haze is all gone. There are VCs that have knowledge on what kind of businesses India needs, what kind of businesses will thrive. So I think we were very lucky also at that time due to several collaboration with the central government and with several state-run incubators like Karnataka, like that run by Kerala. These are very, very active ecosystems. So we begin working with the startups. We understand when they scale up, when they open their ideas, what are the apps that they would need to set their shop, put all those things together. And then this is an online shop you're talking about, online businesses. Either it's a product or it's service. And then what are the tools that they would need when they scale up? Because before you know it, a startup goes from 6 to 10 members to 20 to 25 members. Though they work towards this growth, many a times they arrive at the chaos and then they try to solve the chaos. And what happens then? The famous jugaad happens. You take an Excel sheet and you do patchwork. You take an email and you try to plug in with another software. So I got the opportunity to work with startups, and I have a very small team. So we work for the startups like a startup, donning several hats, do the marketing, do the social media management, do the pitch, take care of the collaboration, pre-COVID times, take the flight, sign the MOU. So it's like growing a lot of hands. And I think the COVID has changed how startups look at themselves, given the economy and impact. But it's been a very, very rewarding interactions. And I think they have invited me to be part of each of the startups. I've made several lifelong friends. They know what I cook during the weekend, what I bake, to sharing some of their most vulnerable moments with me. From tech to cakes, we talk everything today.
That's very interesting, and that shows your the side where you're nurturing those relationships, right? So it's not just a professional relationship, but how do you continue, lifelong friendship with some of these amazing people? And I really like the fact, Kupu, that you're making an impact by helping other startups succeed by bringing your expertise, as a storyteller yourself and as the head of startups for Zoho. So I wish you all the very best as you continue to help other startups grow and thrive. I know you work across different time zones, right? Because you're working with companies globally, and as a mom, as a successful career-oriented woman, how do you make this all work so seamlessly?
It doesn't work seamlessly, okay. From outside, it looks all good, but then there is an effort that you take, right? Say, for example, last night, there's not much sleep that I could get due to various reasons, because Sunday evenings, my mind start working on making to-dos for Monday morning. And you have to tell your mind to shut up. So now bring into this the time zone differences, because before you are awake, Singapore is up, and then there are people from Zoho in Singapore office who are working on ideas. And then you wake up, and then an hour and a half goes by, and then Dubai wakes up, because we're working with the Middle East as well. It doesn't work seamlessly, but the advantage of working in a tech where we dog food, right? We use several of Zoho's apps to run ourselves, which means there is chat app for communication, there is email, say the scheduling of emails and all of that, where you can finish your work in the time zone that you are most creative, and then log off and do whatever you want. And that's also because of the culture we have set and worked on really hard inside Zoho. Right from the CEO, we have used these tools, always gave importance to the human element, and worked on enabling human lives where technology is only a catalyst. Uh, I go back to the Spider-Man once again, where there is a red cloak and the black cloak in the story. And the black cloak especially takes the personality of the person that's wearing it. So when the actual Spider-Man wears, he becomes gooder, like my daughter calls, good and better. But when people who are jealous, or who want to be Spider-Man themselves, when they wear, it takes a different shape and it starts harming people. My daughter's showing me something to read from a book that she has written. She says, "Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown." I think she's talking about the responsibility that comes with the power. This is one of her favorite quotes. I think she's been pointing to that from the time we began talking.
Oh, thank you. Thank you to the little one who I'm so glad she's joined and Kate crashed into our podcast as well, which seems to be the norm anyways, right?
Like showing
oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for making this very personal. Thanks to your daughter on that.
Thanks for being accommodative with this.
Oh, absolutely.
So what I meant to say is, technology is like that. As such, it doesn't create magic. AI and deep machine learning, or even basic technologies, always depends on the human that's holding it. What I mean by this is, I can leave a chat message for my team members, and then I can go do about several things, especially when you have to be creative. You have to go sit in a corner. You can't have 10 chat messages popping, an email box that is overflowing. So I think we have set a culture where we've used these pieces of technology ourselves, figured out way to asynchronously work. When something is urgent, I will always call my team, right? They don't have to panic when they see chat messages from me or emails from me and drop everything and reply. So this has helped in working across time zones, where each of us is aware of how long it will take for the person to come back with a response. So I think many of the startups also today have this understanding of how communication works. And now we all have gone remote. We're working from the comforts of our home. So sometimes the understanding is forced upon us, which way it happens faster.
Right, and that goes to say about setting expectations with your teams and people that you work with. So thank you so much, Kupu, for walking us through your life at Zoho and some fun trivia moments in your personal life, especially. Are you ready for a fun rapid fire round with us, which is a special episode, which is a special round that we have for every guest on our episode?
Yes.
See the thumbs up. All right. So you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the following. Fun fact about Chennai, which is also my hometown, by the way.
Your hometown. Good. Fun fact about Chennai is, in Tamil they say, Vandare Varavaikum Chennai. Every second face speaks Telugu, every third face speaks Malayalam, every fourth face speaks Punjabi. So I think it's become a really multicultural place. One word, diverse and inclusive. 2 words.
Role model?
My role model, can I take names?
Sure.
I think I can, right? Several of them right now off the top of my mind is my most favorite test person, Dr. Soundarya Rajesh.
Favorite book, given you love reading nonfiction?
I love reading non-fiction. The recent favorite is Ikigai, but I always go back to reading Brené Brown's any day.
How would you describe what you do to your kid? Because I know you're a big fan of Explain It Like I'm 5.
Yeah. How do I explain it to my kid?
Uh-huh.
I think he knows me as a storyteller. Amma is always with Mike. She's traveling, packing the next suitcase, and she'll come back home with those mementos and gifts, and she will talk about what she spoke and whom she spoke to. Amma is a storyteller.
That's a nice skill set to have, right, as a mom.
Yeah.
The last and final one. What's your native language and one word to describe yourself in it? And I would love for you to let our viewers know the meaning of your name as well, because it has a lot of significance.
Oh, yeah. One word in my mother tongue, describing me, not the mother tongue, right?
No, describing yourself.
In my mother tongue. Wow, you caught me there. My mother tongue is Tamil. I'm thinking how to describe myself. Wow. I think I really need a minute. It's not rapid fire if I think.
That's completely fine.
I'm so sorry. I think I'm thinking of the word in Tamil that means impulsive. Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
It's like I put Kupu on the hot seat, given that she's been on stage every time. Look what I've done to her.
That's right. Can I go hide somewhere?
You know what? I'm going to divert you a little bit. Impulsive. I get what you're saying. Tell us about the significance of your name.
My name. It's sort of a personal story where I am the 4th child for my parents, which means there were babies before that didn't stay alive. And according to customs, they had to add certain parts of the name where they call it the drishti in Tamil, where you pray to gods and goddesses and make sure that at least I'm alive. So they add words like Kupu, Subu to the name, and I was born on a Friday. And this is the first time ever I think I've been asked that question and I'm explaining. So it's very, very special. So it's Kupu plus Lakshmi, and my mother always told me that it was my granddad who named. She didn't want to name me that, but that's how Kupu Lakshmi was born, literally. I was born on a Friday, so they added the Lakshmi. And because I was the 4th child, a special child to stay alive, Kupu was added to the name.
Thank you for sharing that special significance. Kupu, thank you for being on my show, Career Startup Podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know the real you and to unravel certain aspects of your life that you've shared as an exclusive for us. So thank you for all of that. And I've really felt inspired getting to learn more about your journey, be it at Zoho, be it as a storyteller, be it as somebody who's very kind and compassionate to help startups succeed, and being an amazing mom to your kid as well. So several facets of your life that you've successfully handled. And to your parents, I'm quite sure they feel very grateful and proud of what you've achieved in your life and your continued success as well, for naming you, the right way also. So any parting thoughts to our listeners before we wrap up this special episode?
Priyanka, I want to tell you, thank you so much for the warmth you bring, the warmth and the familiarity that puts any person, I think, at ease, because it's not really easy to, convey what you want to convey in the way if you are not there sitting across me. And so far, I think in my life, I've been very fortunate. Whenever I'm doing such interviews where you can't plan candid moments, but that's the only way I want to show myself, in the flow, caught in the moment, not really striving for perfection, but to show my true flawed self. That is the complete self. So thank you. And I was just thinking of how over the years I've accepted my name, because when I was very young, I remember throwing my bag and saying, what kind of name have you given me? People are making fun of my name, and from teachers to friends. But it took a lot of years of my parents to sit me down, help me understand how it's not so common. Someday my name will add more special whatever to who I am. So today I think most of them don't call me in my full name. They call me Kupu, but it sounds so special, when people call me with my name. It feels so special, and I've learned to finally accept this not so common name. Yeah, so thank you so much, Priyanka. I am so glad that via this Career Up podcast, Career Up Startup, today I'm being able to share some pieces of me, and I'm listening to myself. And once again, without you, I wouldn't have said whatever I had to say in the way I said. And I'm so glad I got to meet you. I wish you all the best, and I look forward to a number of people subscribe to this, where you've given us this beautiful platform to share our life lessons and life stories. And I promise to be deserving of this opportunity you gave me. So best wishes to you and to everybody who's listening to this podcast. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Kupu. And that was Kupu Lakshmi for us. Thank you for being on our show, Career Up Startup Podcast. Until another episode with another interesting guest, this is your host, Priyanka Komla, signing off.